What is going on, everybody? Luke here. In today's video we are going to be talking about how I use a specific part of BuyBotPro to analyze very methodically and deeply into not only the number of units that I should be buying, but also to do with pricing. So what I mean is that there's a section down here, which I'm sure many of you are aware, with all of the buyers here with stock limits. So you can see 95, 308, 81, so on, and these are all FBA as well, so that's obviously important to know compared to FBM. Now don't use this product as like oh, it's a good product to buy or anything, because I've heard there has been IP issues with this Pringle box. It may not be on this listing, it could be on maybe one of these listings, but you know, if I've ever heard of any IP problems on something, I probably won't even bother selling the thing, even if I can get around it by selling it on another listing. I probably wouldn't do that, but obviously you can go and do what you want if you want to do that. So yeah, but we're using it as an example because it is a good sort of rough example with historical data. So it's, and you can obviously see it's even older, it's there as well, which is good. So what we want to do is we want to look at the current product. So you can see what it is, advent calendar, very seasonal. Obviously November, this is the month to sell it. December maybe not so, but all good. Yeah, let's say there was profit in it. I don't know, I've just put in some random prices. Cool, £33.50. Obviously on this, if I can get a lot and I can sell a lot because of the rank, then quid's in. Okay, so pretty straightforward there. You know, it doesn't actually tell you the rank here, which is fine because you can, well, you can see this. You don't really need to, you can see the rank here anyway, so all good, blah, blah, blah. Going down because people are jumping on the listing, but in theory, you know, in my mind, if I had like 30 grand in the bank sitting around, you could sell 500 of these. You know, if you could sell 500, let's say this price comes down to something like this. You know, this is where it's good to figure out your numbers, your mins, your maxes. You know, what's your lowest you're willing to take, what's the sort of average. Obviously high probably wouldn't be too applicable in this case. Maybe it would be applicable. You can see here at the end of November, everyone is selling out, so you might be able to pick up a premium here, a premium at the beginning, but on average through the majority of the season it will stay at a specific price, and then at the end of November here it actually goes up a bit earlier, but you kind of get it. Normally the entry, unfortunately there wasn't actually that great, but the entry is we can kind of see it here, it's obviously higher where there's people, not as many people, and it goes down. So you can have three strategies in head. So right off the bat you could be like, right, I want to maximize some profits early on. I'm happy to take the lower end, for example, maybe here, maybe a bit higher. It's pretty low right now at 6%, 90p, but if you could justify the profit and you've got the cash, you know, if you could sell 1,000 of these in a month, 90 quid profit, yeah, it's going to cost you whatever it's going to cost you to buy. But if you've got loads of cash in the bank, why not do it? So obviously figure out what that price is for you. And what I like to do is this. So I'll first identify the strategies. So if I was only buying this now, of course I couldn't take any of this entry. It would probably be me looking at the lower price, well, this kind of price, potentially that price, because I could see it go down a little bit more, maybe in the next week or two. Because what normally happens is people want to sell advent calendars ultimately, don't they? They don't want to hold them. I don't know if you see it already here. Yeah, it kind of dips a little, not really. The number of sellers isn't crazy. Obviously here it's a lot higher, it's double. So there's more likely to be lower prices because people obviously want to make sure they sell before the end of the month. So you normally get, you know, you have to sort of play with the possibility of what's going to happen. But then what I'll do, let's say I have 400 of these, and that would normally be based on me getting in early, selling them, figuring out how many I'm selling per day, per week on average. Of course, back here it's not going to be as, you know, as key. The key isn't, oh, I'm selling 30 a week, that's going to sell 30 here. Of course not. But I'm trying to build up a picture as we creep in, and I'm basically maybe buying 50 at the beginning. Then I'm buying 100 because I can now get a better read on the product. Then I see sales tick up as we creep into October, and I'm like, right, let's go and buy 200 next time. Yeah, and I'm just adding to it. By the time I'm actually here, if this was what I was doing with this product, of course this is an example, so no, I would be right now, I'm going to be buying 400. But you want to understand what your minimums, your maximums, and your averages are, because you obviously want to figure it out here and get a nice premium if you can. But you know that this is probably going to happen on an advent calendar, the price dropping. But then you're going to offset the drop in price by selling 2 times more, like instead of selling 100, you're selling 300 or 200. So yes, the price goes down, but the profit overall for that month will go up or stay the same, or even if it's a bit less, but it's profit. But the goal is to sort of accumulate profits from each phase of this, the beginning, the middle, the end, and then look for an average. And the reason you want to identify this is because what you want to do is you want to be like, right, okay, £24.99 is my low, it's at £27.99. Okay, so you have £3 to work with. And if you can see as you're creeping in here, and you're like, wow, the sales are 50, I'm selling 50 a day. Well, you could just go, okay, well, this is, you know, October 23rd. Obviously, just simple math, 350 units a week times 4, that's 1,400 units a month. So 1,400 units times 90p, that's 1,260 quid a month profit off this one product if you are selling it at £24.99, which you're not. Yeah. And so the possibility here is like profits are great. Even, you know, yes, to obviously buy a lot of units, 1,400 units at 15 quid is like 21 grand. You wouldn't be buying all 21 grand up front back here. Of course, you'd be, you know, getting your money in and out a good handful of times through the whole cycle, if you want to call it that. So of course it's not going to be an one-off cost, but again, for some people that's a lot of money and this wouldn't be a viable option. Or you're happy to sell 50 over that whole period because you have to diversify your income or your cash flow, into other products. So that's fine. But I'm just giving you how I see this with a little bit more capital in the bank. And there's no right way to do it, is there? You know, or it's something you can look to do another time. And so, right, we got, you know, potentially I wouldn't be too worried about taking this if I could sell 1,000 units a month. Yeah, but because I'm making the profit fit the bill, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to sell 1,000 of these at, you know, and make, so to make sure I never muck up, 900 quid. I literally do the most simple maths like on a calculator. Like 900 quid profit in a month if I've got the cash. 900 quid, I can do a lot with that. You know, I can pay all my VAs and expenses, and that's just on one product. And then the rest, you know, the rest is for me or whatever. You kind of get what I mean. On the flip side, that's, you know, first, that's quite simple. Entry, exit, and you don't have to exit with a premium. You know, if you've got a lot of stock, if you're playing that high stock game, you don't know if that obviously is going to jump up, and then therefore you may never have a high price. You might be happy just to keep doing this until the end of the month because you obviously want to sell out because of that overall profit is still decent, and you'd rather not be left with them. It's a very seasonal specific time frame product, and you don't want to be left, you don't want to, you know, yes, you might get 5 sales at this price because you're basically empty, you've got nothing, you know, you've emptied the tank, but you're not going to hold 50 to get a premium because it's so close to the deadline that you don't want to be left with those 50 after. So there's no right way to play this game. But what you can do on top of that as another layer is you can look at here. So let's say you get into mid-November and you've got 300 left, and this is something I do quite often in, not for advent calendars, but doesn't mean you can't and doesn't mean I won't do it. And I do it on Christmas items a lot more as well. It's what I do is I'll basically monitor this. So if I know that this is selling a hell of a lot of units, let's say it's selling, I sold 100 yesterday for myself. Well, you know, all you got to do is look at the buy box, work out how many, it's not going to be perfect. You got to go, you know, how many people are probably getting this buy box a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people, he's probably getting it a little bit. He's probably getting a tiny slither. He's probably getting a tiny slither. So Z, anyone between, but you know, you can see that's not a massive jump, but it's a jump. All of these, obviously this guy is probably going to get more than not of it. And you can obviously see he's got a fair bit of stock, so he's happy to take 28.99, or does someone actually get 27? Because obviously he's going to be playing the I'm selling a lot of them, or a lot as in more than 10 or 20, but the profit's going to be worth it. And then what I'll do is you can even take a picture on your phone. You literally just go, okay, I sold 100, but I want to know how many it's selling through the day. So you just take a picture, screenshot it, and yes, people can jump into onto the listing and all that, so it's not going to be perfect. And you can just go, I sold 100, you know, how many are people's quantities? And you can just go, okay, well that guy had 308 yesterday, now he's got 270, so on and so on and so on and so on. Yes, people could jump in, but you want to be like, well, I've got 400 or 500 units, like I'm happy to sell 200 at the buy box that it is now, all good, profits there. But as I drop in my stock, and so does everyone else stocks drops, because obviously people aren't going to keep replenishing this forever. It might be that you're like, well, I know it sells 400 a day, that's what you worked it out as, between 4 and 550 or something, you know, just however rough. Well, there's only all of these are only 450 in stock, but there's 5 days left of people wanting to buy advent calendars, and you'll be like, well, it's selling 450 a day on an average. It could be 400, it could be 380, but you know, you're roughly there. And that's a day to a day and a half if you want to be, you know, conservative of sales, and there's 5 days left. So you can literally be like, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to preempt and strategically raise my prices ahead of time before it really gets down there. Because obviously if you saw 450 units here, you wouldn't go, that's nothing. You would think, oh, that's still quite a lot. But actually, if you look here, you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, in a crazy advent season like the last week, that could sell in a couple of days, all of this. And it's like, yes, there are sellers down below here, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to push that price up. And it could be that obviously by the time we get in 3 weeks time to the last week of November, somewhere here, that you can work out that everybody could literally be gone by like the 25th. And obviously you don't want to be stuck with tons of stock, but you want to potentially, if you've got a 50 or 100, you've got 100 left, just literally like raise your price to the highest price or high enough, $34.99 or something. You can always lower it later. There's no reason you couldn't do that, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to then capture a premium on those last 100. It may be very obvious. It might be that there's like literally no one with stock and it's a week to go, but if it's not, you can be like, right, I've worked out, I've done all the analysis beforehand, I know roughly how many it's selling. And what I've done many times on non-advent calendar products is I've got 400 in stock. It's out of stock everywhere else, but that was because it was a Christmas product. In this case, it would be the same as being out of stock because people won't want to be buying it on the 25th of November to send it in. Yeah, so it'd be the same, you know, you're working at no one's going to be buying that stock to replenish it because it's too late. Same with if it's out of stock, you know, no one's going to be really picking it up unless they got some sitting around at their prep center or something, which can happen. But overall, most people aren't going to be restocking it, or in this case, most people aren't going to be sending it in. And so obviously you can then go, okay, I got 300, I know it's selling about 500. You know, you could have a real good understanding of how many it's selling a day. And be like, look, that's going to be selling out in 3 days and there's 10 days left or there's 7 days left. And I'm going to bump my price up to the most expensive. I want every single person on that listing to sell out. Every single person. That's it, 700 units. And I'm happy to take 2 days, 3 days worth of sales. And what you need to do at that point, let's say that you now get right down, there's only a couple of you. You can share the buy box with one guy, you know, because obviously if there's only 2 of you or 3 of you, this price could be at $34.99, $35.99 because you're all looking to just rinse, you know, they'll all know that they're selling a lot and therefore there's no point crashing the price because they're going to sell out quite quickly and easily. And what you can either do is wait for all them to sell out, or you can start to take some profits with them. If you've got, the more units you have, the sooner you should be trying to get involved with selling, as long as the price merits the profit, and the sale price obviously merits it being worth it. So if you were making like, you know, here 90p on this crappy example, but now you're making 3-4 quid, it's like, you know, if you've got 400 at £4, that's 1,600 quid. But you're not looking to sell all of those 400 units at £4 profit. You're looking to take maybe 50 to 100 units at 4 quid. With the other guys, they will probably sell out, or one might sell out, and then the other 300, like the next 100, you can raise that price a bit more. And because obviously you want to be making sure you're getting rid of them for the end of the advent calendar season, but while trying to maintain that premium at the end. So you have to balance it, and the way that, you know, you can balance it is if you can get to the point where it's just say 2 of you or 3 of you or 1 of you. Like I've done it where it's just me. With like a week to go, and I sold out obviously way in advance, but yeah, all good. Is that you can go, okay, now that I can get more realized data, I can basically, if I'm on the only buy box seller on the buy box, I know how many this product sells a day, as long as I can keep in stock all day. If you got 1,000, you know, let's say you had more and you sold 386 in a day, well, you now know that even though that's not an average, that day you sold, so next day you should sell about 386. It could be 350, it could be 400. And so you can basically get a perfect number. And then what you can do is you can go, okay, I've got a week left until no one's going to be buying advent calendars. I got 1,000 units, you know, bit of a different example. 1,000 units, it's saying 380 a day. Well, I don't need to be selling 380 a day. I want to be selling like 200 because I won't have enough supply to last till that last day, or the day before the last day, if you want to be like careful. Whatever day you might say people are going to be buying advent calendars. So they could be buying Monday, but you could say something like a Friday or Saturday, just to be conservative. And you know, if you're going to sell out here at that current price, you don't want to do that. So if you raise your prices, you'll be selling less of them per day, but getting more profit. So I had an example from a couple of years ago or last year. So I was selling it at like $10.99, making a quick profit, and then I ended up selling it at like $24.99 because I was the only one left. Yes, the sales were like a quarter of what they were, or even less what they were at the $10.99 price, but I didn't have enough supply to last to the end of the year in December or something. So I was happy to take less sales. Like, yes, instead of doing 100 a day sales, I'm doing 30, and that will mean that I'll stay in stock longer, but I'll still go out of stock before the end of the Christmas period anyway. And I just maximize my profits. Obviously, at some point you want to be careful not raising your prices too high, because, you know, people will get, like, you could get negative reviews and returns, so you've got to be careful that you're not putting that at 40 quid, because yeah, people might buy it, but they're going to get it and go, what the hell, I just bought for 40 quid. So that's what one of the sides you've got to be careful with. And obviously then Amazon could say you're price gouging and all that as well, so you've got to be careful there. So I always find it's good to do that, but it's not good to be stupid. You know, you just got to be, you know, profit. Like if you make good profit anyway, why do you want to make yes, I understand why you want to make more, but the overall picture is more important. And then obviously if you can try to adapt that with other advent calendars or other seasonal products, win-win. You know, if you can focus on doing that with literally 2-3 products over a Christmas period or advent period, that could be like 3-4 grand, literally, or even more, added to like a December's profit or November's profit by doing very little. All you've done is literally spent 15 minutes looking at a couple of bits, looked at like SellerBoard or Seller Toolkit to work out how many you're roughly selling, crunch the data, you know, going, okay, well, let's say that, you know, it's blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you just, I know, like, you know, sometimes I might go into a bit of detail. It's pretty simple. You just work out some averages and you give it a go. And if you find out it's not what you thought, well, then just bring the price down, be competitive in the buy box and get it sold before the end of the period. You're still making some profits. Very, you know, very easy and simple. Anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. Any questions? Go ahead and let me know in the comments. Hopefully I explain myself well. I feel I do. And, you know, that is just a tactic that I like to use in Q4. And again, if you can't afford something like this, you could always try with products that are cheaper. So that, you know, obviously the quantity is going to be less of a capital expense. But yeah, you get what I mean. So I'm going to leave it there, everyone, and I'll see you all on the next video.